Viewers, Prime Minister Modi joins a host of global readers to now come ahead and congratulate the 47th President of the United States, Donald Trump. Prime Minister Modi has said, "Heartiest congratulations, my friend, at real Donald Trump, on your historic election victory as you build on the successes of your previous term. I look forward to renewing our collaboration to further strengthen the India-US comprehensive global and strategic partnership. Together, let's work for the betterment of our people and to promote global peace, stability and prosperity." So that is Narendra Modi's congratulatory message to Donald Trump. We all know that Mr. Modi shares a rapport, a very good rapport, which has manifested itself several times on different stages around the world. In India, also, of course, in that unforgettable, momentous Howdy Modi joint celebration, as well as, of course, in different multilateral fora. And Prime Minister Modi will be really looking forward to cementing a relationship that had entered a slightly tricky path over the last few months, especially on the back of some ideological differences. Let's go across to Sanjay Suri, who's at Washington, D.C., covering this election for CNN News 18. Sanjay Suri, it's very late in the night, but Modi being one of the first to congratulate Donald Trump, Macron and Netanyahu are the other notable leaders from around the globe that have done so. What's your reading of this quick message?
Well, Rahul, how good this turns out to be for America, we'll have to wait and see. But certainly, this is good news for relations with India. There is, as you were saying, a strong personal rapport between Trump and Prime Minister Modi, and that can only work to the advantage of India. There is a lot that the US and the Indian governments have been talking about. There have been strategic issues in the Indo-Pacific. There have been defense issues, both production and cooperation in other ways. There has been talk of stepping up trade. There has been talk of stepping up more US manufacturing in India. And while that is for private companies to do, the government has a lot to do to ease that kind of flow. There is a lot going on there. The Quad certainly needs a new emphasis, and that is all looking very promising. Now, with Trump here in charge in the White House, not least there have been some humps and hurdles that have arisen between the US and India, and Trump, very much more than Harris, would be the better bet to get past those and to, at the very least, minimize the impact they could have on the larger relationship. So for India, this certainly is good news. Internationally, you were speaking, Rahul, about messages from Netanyahu, and that certainly will be something to watch for. Trump said in his speech, we heard just moments ago, that he made promises and he intends to keep them. One of the promises has been to end the Gaza war. Could he prevail upon Netanyahu to stop hostilities, to stop the current operations underway? Could he persuade Putin to pull back from Ukraine, or could he persuade Zelensky to accept the occupation of that land by Russian forces? It's all going to be very tricky internationally, but within the, as far as dealing with those wars and ending them, and he has promised loudly and often to do that, that's going to be the challenge for Trump now in the days and weeks to come.
Yes.
But clearly, so far as India goes and relations between US and India goes, this is good news. It
is good news. Sanjay Suri, just stay on with us because I want to go across to Siddhant Mishra, who joins me from the newsroom. Very important tweet coming at an extremely critical juncture in Indo-US ties, Siddhant. We have been seeing a few hiccups in the relationship around 2 or 3 issues. One is, of course, India's perceived proximity to Russia at a time in the backdrop of the Ukraine war. The United States has, of course, sanctioned Russia. Viewers did not want India to continue with its, quote, oil diplomacy, unquote, with Russia. On human rights, there has been some talk from the Harris camp as well as the Biden camp, but more exemplified by the Harris camp. And of course, this talk which routinely sort of surfaces under Democratic presidencies of democratic backsliding in India. Siddhant, all of this now might be actually consigned to the past because Trump is more of an isolationist. He doesn't like to get involved, at least that's what he says, in the internal affairs of other countries, especially allies.
Well, absolutely, Rahul. It's perhaps it's a good development as far as Indian interest is concerned. And I would like to start, Rahul, at the time when President Trump visited India. There were riots going on in the national capital. And when he was asked in the press conference, he said that it is India's internal matter. So that is President Trump for India. Not just that, Rahul. In fact, in last few months, we have seen the hiccups you were mentioning. There were a lot of commentary from the State Department. Before Prime Minister Modi's visit to US, the White House is meeting the separatist groups in United States. They were planning to bring transnational aggression law in place. The whole Pannoon fiasco, Nikhil Gupta getting extradited, etc., etc. Now, we could perhaps at least expect from Donald Trump to have a fresh new outlook, fresh new viewpoint, especially on these particular issues. And second, and the most important one, Rahul, is President Trump is perhaps the first American leader of that stature to speak for the Hindus. And in fact, just few days back, he did make a social media post on X, perhaps speaking about the atrocities on the Hindu communities in Bangladesh. And he also assured that he looks forward to work with Prime Minister Modi. So where on one end, Rahul, the US politicians were ignorant about the atrocities on the Hindu community in Bangladesh, where they were calling it a work of Indian disinformation factory, the videos and the footages which were coming from Bangladesh. At that time,
what we're hoping to do is to pull out that clip of Donald Trump speaking with a group of influencers. You might remember this from a few days ago, just before the final leg really of the campaign, Siddhant, where he's talking to a group of YouTubers and he's talking about what he admired about Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in a sense reiterating his close connect and his admiration for the Prime Minister. So that interpersonal relationship does really have a transformative effect on overall ties, doesn't it, Siddhant?
Absolutely, Rahul. Now, White House has a precedent who would be in a hotline with the Indian Prime Minister. The kind of rapport and the understanding that Prime Minister Modi and President Donald Trump has is unprecedented, and that understanding and that friendship was never between President Modi, Prime Minister Modi and President Biden.
Yes,
yes, there were interest of two countries involved. So the Quad progressed. The defense cooperation progressed. The jet engines, etc., etc. What we usually talk about. But when it comes to the personal rapport and personal understanding, now if suppose any department of US government is doing anything which is not in Indian interest, at least the Indian Prime Minister can take up a phone and call President Trump and tell him that this is not good for Indian interest.